if, as you say, from a young age, that's what you were gearing up for, that's what everything was pointing towards, then it's like a loss in a way.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Tough, yeah. Oh, it is. And it's tough. And like I said, I don't think I'll ever get over it. You learn to live with it and never get over it. But these milestones, and it's it's a bit like what we just discussed, they are my motivators as well. So if I'm not having a legacy there, one's if I'm the number one golf fitness provider in the globe and everyone knows me for that. Do you mean that's a pretty good career then?
At Golf Yourself Healthy, we believe that golf is good for you. Now, yes, I'm sure that many of you golfers out there, like me, have had cause to question that statement in the past. Golf, much like life itself, can be frustrating. It can chew us up and spit us out. And I've lost count of the number of times I've threatened to chuck my clubs on eBay and kiss goodbye to the game. However, no matter what golf throws at us, adversity makes us stronger. It builds our resilience and it helps us to rediscover our love for the game. As today's guest, Zach Gould, would attest to, it all ultimately boils down to understanding why you play the game and what your personal version of golf is good for you looks like. I'm Chris Lynch, your host. I'm the creator and the founder of Golf Yourself Healthy. Before I get into introducing today's episode and today's guest, I have a small personal favour to ask you. To you, our listeners, our GYH community members. Either during or after listening to today's episode, please leave us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Golf Yourself Healthy is ultimately a personal passion project for me, really. It's something I've created taking inspiration from my son's memory, having launched Golf Yourself Healthy on the 18th of February this year on what would have been my son Innes's first birthday. I'm doing GYH as a means to heal, really, these days. Playing golf is a healing and cathartic experience for me, but actually so is doing this podcast. So is writing the journal articles that I write and publish over at golfyourselfhealthy.com. The people I get to meet, the people I get to interview, the conversations I have, the life and golf lessons that I learn from being involved in Golf Yourself Healthy are so valuable to me in that respect of healing. And so leaving that 5-star review and a comment to go with it when you leave the review is really the highest form of compliment you can pay me. But really, it's not just about me. It's also about what you can get from leaving that review too. Ultimately, leaving these reviews will help this podcast grow. It will help it get noticed. And as I mentioned in the last episode 6, recently I was approached for the first time with someone pitching to be a guest on this podcast. And generally those things only tend to start happening when your podcast is getting noticed and gaining traction. And it prompted me to think, well, A, I don't think we would have been in that position were it not for the great reviews that we've had so far. And B, I just thought, well, that's a great thing for my listeners too, for you, the listener, because the more that this podcast grows, the more that reviews are left, and it can grow, the more this podcast gets attention and it attracts a certain profile of guest, and that can only be a good thing for you. So I thank you in advance for that. I would also encourage you to head over to golfyourselfhealthy.com, as I mentioned, to check out my latest journal articles. The very first I wrote was dedicated to my son Innes, who I mentioned a moment ago. There has been a second on nostalgia, and the most recent, the third, is talking about the curious case of growing the game and why we're growing the game. I talked about Zach, today's guest, his why for playing golf these days at the top of this episode, and I do delve into this concept of why golf, why growing the game of golf in that latest journal article. So please go to golfyourselfhealthy.com and check that out. Now, over to today's episode and to introduce Zach Gould. So who is Zach Gould? Some of you out there may know Zach for his current work in the field of golf fitness, strength and conditioning. You may also know him for his stellar golfing accolades from his amateur playing days having played on the same team as none other than Rory Mcilroy in the Junior Ryder Cup team, or indeed for his exploits in hitting the opening tee shot against Tony Finau in that same tournament. A story which Zach tells with great nostalgia in today's episode. Aside these skills and talents, I personally prefer to know and recognise Zach as someone who is willing to open up and be vulnerable about his feelings, the things he values in life, and the life lessons he's learned along the way, while of course embracing the rough and cherishing the fairway. Zach has also helped me with my own golf fitness and training journey, and I not only thank him for that, but I also thank him for travelling across Wales to join me in person in my new podcast studio in the heart of the Brecon Beacons. And if I can get my technical skills to catch up with me, then hopefully you will be able to see that on social media channels. I'll take some pictures, do a post, and we also did a video recording while in the podcast studio, which I hope to get some short clips of up onto social channels. So before we head over to the conversation with Zach, I would also say as well, if you are enjoying this podcast and you know of anyone out there who has an inspirational story to tell, who you think would be a great guest for this podcast, I'd love to hear about that too. You can contact me. My email address is over at golfyourselfhealthy.com if you want to check that out. So whether that person wants to be interviewed remotely or that person wants to come into this podcast studio here in my home in the middle of the Brecon Beacons in mid Wales, then that would be just fabulous. But enough of that. Let's jump over to the conversation with Zach. Zach Gould, welcome to the Golf Yourself Healthy podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to the studio.
I know. I'm impressed. It's fit for purpose. Like one in my house now.
Yeah, you like what you see. Well, I'm glad. Well, yes, it's we've had a number of milestones in the 2 or 3 months that Golf Yourself Healthy has been in existence, but this is an exciting one. Us having our first guest in person in this podcast studio, or a glorified name for your back bedroom in your house. But no, I very proud of what we've achieved in this room with the help of my wonderful wife, Kim, who is an architect and used her creative vision to make this room and this cool golf themed room. But yeah, Zach, thanks for making the trip over this way to do this today. So yeah, we like to start off with a segment we call The Spirit of Your Game. And really the intention here is just to understand, it's your story in golf. So talk us through the beginnings and your journey that you've been on so far.
Yeah, so I suppose I try and keep it fairly brief, and I'm sure there's lots of devil in the detail. But no, I've been involved in golf my whole life. I still feel my identity is a golfer, even though I've gone on to, and when I say that, a performance golfer, even though I've gone into different other avenues in my life. But no, I was fortunate enough to get introduced to the game at around 6 years of age. I think I gravitated towards golf because it's a sport you could go and do on your own. And I was very introverted as a youngster. I still think I'm introverted now, but obviously I've done certain things on social media and business and life and academia and different things. People might not see that, but I think I gravitated towards golf. You could, drop yourself down the golf club. I'd be there for hours and hours and just got absorbed really with trying to become a better player, better version of myself, which is true to this day in many ways. But in my early days, I was doing that on a golf course. So kind of spent my whole childhood, 6 weeks holidays, weekends at the golf course, trying to get better, which led me to a fairly successful early amateur career. Where I was fortunate enough to first of all play for Wales, was kind of my first big milestone and goal in golf, and that happened at 12 years of age. And
having first picked up a club at what age?
At 6.
At 6, right?
At 6. Okay. So and I represented Wales in the under-18s team at that point. So I was playing above my years, and I played in 5 boys home internationals. And to give you context, yes, Wales is probably one of the weaker of the home nations at junior level. But but I never lost a singles in my whole 15 matches. So even though I was 12 years of age, I was playing against some of the best players in England, Ireland and Scotland, but I was still winning matches. So yes, so small, late developer, and obviously represent my country at an early age, but I was still playing at that level. And kind of kicked on from there. I won a number of sort of big international junior titles, one being the European Young Masters in Meerhof in Austria. And back then, it's a little bit different now, but if you're in the top 4 in that tournament, you would then be automatically selected for the Junior Ryder Cup, which was actually in Oakland Hills in America, which Colin Montgomery held the winning putt, if you do remember back then. But there were some great players in that team, one being a certain Mr. Rory Mcilroy. He represented Europe in that team. I actually hit the opening tee shot against Tony Finau. So even the Americans had kind of some strong representatives who have gone on to do well. And kind of from there, that's where sort of my sort of success as an amateur golfer started to excel. I managed to play for Great Britain. I was in the Walker Cup squad on 2 occasions. And I kind of hit, I suppose, the peak of my amateur career then up to around 18. And then my career took a bit of a different path. To give you a bit of an insight around that period. So I left school at age 16 to pursue a career in golf. I didn't really put my head down too much in school in the early days, because my whole identity was to be one of the best golfers in the world. But between the ages of 16 and 18, I didn't have any golf lessons or intervention. I was a late developer. I was 5'4" at 16, then I grew to 6 foot. So physically, I went through a lot of change, and then my technique regressed massively. So when I got to 18, I realized I was starting to plateau, whereas my peers were kicked on. Rory Mcilroy went straight on the European tour at that point. Danny Willett, who was the number 1 amateur in the world, went off to America. Another good young junior golfer, Oliver Fisher. They all pretty much turned pro and was successful, and I was kind of plateauing my game. So I recognized I needed some further intervention. So I 360 the other way then. I put a technical coach in place. I then started working with a mindset coach for the first time. I put a strength and conditioning coach in place. And ultimately, I then went on a path of the technical, physical, mental elements of golf. And I got onto all of the wrong stuff. It was never through sort of lack of effort. It was more kind of people around me and stuff. And I started changing my swing, playing on some of the toughest courses in Europe, all the Open Championship venues from St Andrews to St George's and Lytham. Whilst making these drastic changes, obviously playing the tough courses, that impacted quite a bit on kind of like the mental side then. And I got to 20 and I realised I needed to take a break. What I see that as now, I burnt out. I worked too hard on all those elements. I was playing high pressured environments. I didn't have kind of that downtime. I know we had a brief conversation about stress earlier, but I got to that point. I realized I needed to take a break from golf, and I'm still on that break in a weird way, because I kind of seen it as a stopgap, just try and reset. But during that period, and obviously there's been some key sort of milestones in my life, but I didn't know what to do because golf was my identity. It's all I wanted to do. I wasn't really a natural academic. I didn't know what I was going to do kind of for a job if it wasn't golf. I didn't want to do golf coaching because that was the experience I was kind of been on, which was a negative one. So then I kind of took my passion towards fitness. I really gravitated towards that side when I started doing some new fitness stuff and so on. So a big mentor of mine who's still kind of in my life now pulled me in. I said, look, I need to take a break from golf. I was actually going to go and get a job in Diesel in House of Fraser, which I think is gone in Cardiff. And the reason why I was going to do that is because I like diesel jeans. So you kind of see what my mindset was at that point. I didn't know where to go, basically. So he said, look, go back to school, speak to your old teachers. He said, the time's a crisis. Kind of, there's going to be key people in your life that are going to really come forward and really help and guide you. So I remember it was a Friday afternoon, early October in 2008. I went and spoke to my old teachers, explained what had happened. I needed to take a bit of a break from golf and so on. On Monday morning, I was in high school doing my A-levels again, which I say again for the first time. Which is a big moment when you're 20 turning 21. And again, no disrespect to my peers at that point, because they're still my friends, but they were 16. So you can imagine the life experience I had playing all around the world, and against some of the people I was NCing on TV. I was then back in class, and there's a big sort of developmental gap between a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So that was obviously a really interesting journey. Then I just applied all my focus to studying and really understanding more the sports science side of things, and trying to understand the training methods associated with golf and what people needed to do. Because even back then, it's a little bit more obvious now. I would say fitness and golf was something people wanted to do, not necessarily needed to do. Tiger Woods came on the scene in 2000. He transformed the way in which golfers approach golf. 2008, sort of 2010, when this kind of started to come about, people weren't really doing it. You look at now 2024, all of the world's best golfers are doing it. So now it's a question of what are they doing? Why are they doing it? What's the best stuff we can do? And that's where my journey began. In what I studied sport and exercise science at Cardiff Met, graduated in 2013, and then pursued a PhD between 2013 and 2017, ultimately trying to better understand what golfers need to do from a fitness perspective to enhance performance. Now I'm kind of on that sort of journey of trying to spread that to the masses, because Netflix and social media and various other channels, people like, I can see the golfers doing what are they doing? So finished studying in 2017, my PhD. I want to bring all of my knowledge and resources, put them on an online platform, and show golfers around the world basically what types of training they can do to improve their health, improve their performance, reduce the risk of injury, keep them playing for longer, and bringing all those expertise to the table. And that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last 6 years since finishing my PhD and really helping golfers around the world.
Yeah. So much to unpack in that, Zach. The first question I'm going to ask, going right back to the start, is given your accelerated journey from starting golf at the age of 6 to getting to the sort of level you were then going at 12 onwards, what's your view on this being naturally gifted? Because even then, you're like in that 1% club, in that 0.1% club. I guess what I'm driving at is, what's your view on, like, do you have to be naturally gifted to get to that level, or does hard work get you there?
It's the famous question, and it's the nature-nurture question, really. But it's an element of both, do you know what I mean? Without sitting in the middle. But there's no denying, especially nowadays, you look at the best players in the world, there's a huge amount of talent there. There's a huge amount of hard work there. I just think there's obviously a bit of a balancing act. Because even Rory said it himself, he's never been a massive practicer in his time. He's obviously extremely talented, and it is probably a bit of a tipping point where you start doing too much and you start dropping off the edge. But I'm a firm believer that every single golf you see on the TV now has put a huge amount of hard work in there. So even if you're super talented and you're just missing that sort of determination and motivation and those types of things, I do think you're at a disadvantage. So it just, for me, you have to be good. It has to come with both. You have to be talented and you have to put the work in. Yeah, absolutely. When we first met, one of the things you said to me that I found quite interesting was, given the journey that you've had, and now given the work that you do in golf fitness, you're quite well positioned, because would it be fair to say you're working with quite a broad church of like golfers, some at the very quite elite levels, elite performance for Wales, for instance, versus Muggins here, who's like a like mid to high level handicapper, right? So you were talking about how you're quite well positioned to kind of, whether it's guide is the right word, or kind of give counsel or advice to these young people coming through who maybe had the hopes and dreams and the aspirations that you had back then, but you actually know the reality of the hard knocks of, right? So like, what's the kind of advice that you're giving to this next generation of
young hopefuls coming through that want to be the next Rory McIlroy?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, and I suppose just to answer the first part of the question is yes, naturally people who see golf fitness as a vehicle to improve are going to be your high level golfers. There's obviously that natural gravity towards that. I think that's changing. I think post-COVID, people are way more aware of their health and well-being and those types of things. And people see golf as a vehicle to, stay fit, healthy and active and those types of things. And they want to play for longer. So what I've seen a shift in, especially over the last 4 years particularly, more older golfers starting to sort of work with people like myself or come on my platform because they want to be playing in their 60s, 70s and 80s. When they start to retire, they love golf. That's their hobby. That's what brings, their identity forward then. But if their back's gone or they're picking up injuries or their health goes, then they're not going to be able to play golf as much, let's say. So I've definitely seen a shift on that side of things as to, let's say, more of your recreational weekend golfer using my services and wanting to get fitter. So there's been a shift there. And the other point as well, and I'll come back to the younger question, is I'm aware that people choose to work with me because they want to improve their golf as an initial point. That's their motivator. They see fitness as their vehicle. But whether you're a DP World Tour Pro, a Live Tour Pro, a PJ Tour Pro, or your weekend golfer, if you've done no fitness prior to that point, so it doesn't matter on your playing level, it all matters on kind of where you've been on your fitness journey. The process is the process. So if you're top 10 in the world but never stepped foot in a gym, I'm starting in the same place if you're 15 handicapped but never stepped in a gym, because the physical qualities are kind of the foundation of what I need to improve on first, and then I build up. So I suppose my message is this isn't just for good golfers. This is for anybody looking to improve their health, improve their fitness, and that'll help improve your game. But to kind of finish with the last question in terms of junior development and those types of things, one thing I kind of always say is even if it's good right now doesn't mean you don't need to put the work into it. So I was a perfect example of, highly profiled, or won the biggest tournament in Europe against all the players you see on TV. I was +4 handicapper at 15. I had all the pedigree to kick on and do it, but I didn't have the right team around me. I didn't have the right information. It wasn't through a lack of effort. I didn't lose my way as such from distractions and so on. I just didn't have the right people in my corner at that point. So there could be a young golfer out there listening right now where it's all fine, but we still need to be working and maintaining and improving our weaknesses and staying on top of our technique and our fitness and mindset, because I don't care who you are, this game will catch you at some point, and you need to make sure you've got the necessary skills and tools to handle it when it does, because in my experience, everybody has gone through slumps in this game, but those who have the right foundations are the ones who can come back out more positively on the other side.
Let's dive a bit deeper then into kind of the component parts, if that's the right term, in golf fitness. So when you're building a golf fitness plan, let's imagine, let's go back to however many weeks ago it was that I came to see you in your garage, and so what are you kind of talk us through the process of building a bit of a fitness plan for a golfer?
So I always like to start with golf. Do you know what I mean? What's your goals? Why are you here type thing? Because it could be you're struggling with a swing change and you feel your flexibility isn't where it needs to be. It could be you've got an injury that we need to, reduce the risk of or prevent it coming back. It could be that you want to hit the ball further. It could be you want to win the club champ, whatever it might be. But I always like to start with what is your golf goal? Because fitness, unfortunately, is something we have to do consistently over time to see the results. So I'm massive into that mindset piece now, where I need to find your why. What's going to motivate you to get in the gym, get up in the morning, do it on days you don't feel like doing it, because it's easy for me to get you there on days you want to do it. That's not when it counts. It counts you going there on days you're tired, you're hungry, you don't feel like doing it today. And I feel golf is a big part of that. if you're like, right, I want to win the club championships this year, or I want to get my handicap from 20 to 15, that's your why you're going to go and do these things. So I always like to start with the golf side of things, find out your goals, what you're working on in the swing, what does the long-term plan look like. Then if I can give you certain exercise that's going to facilitate that, that's your motivator. Once I got you motivated and inspired, then I want to understand your fitness side. So is it strength we're trying to improve? Is it flexibility? Is it posture? Is it core strength? Is it power? Whatever that is, I would then go through a process initially of trying to understand those things. Being very transparent with you, if you haven't done a huge amount of resistance training before, I pretty much guarantee it's strength you need to improve without me doing any tests with you, because it's very difficult to get strong without putting external resistance on the body. If we're not strong, it's very unlikely we're going to be powerful. So I could simply ask you how many years you've been training. And if someone says, well, I've never really done any resistance training, I know where I need to start. And then I really try and understand what the barriers could be in your life. So, initially in the early days when I started working with people, how many times a week can you train? They'd say every day. I'll train every day, Zach. Tell me what I need to do. You're not going to do that for the next 10 years. So there's no point me writing a training program that you need to do every day, because you're not going to do it. So something I consistently say, whatever I put together for you, if you can't visualize yourself doing this consistently for 12 months, it needs to be looked at again. Because you're not going to do it then. So it's, I look at the barriers. What's the time you've got in your life? Where are you training? Have you got access to equipment? What's going to stop you getting there? So once I understand those pieces, so I got your golf bits, I got your physical goals, I got the barriers in place. Injury is always going to be a massive kind of understanding. Obviously, there's natural injury sites in golf, lower back being one. Post 50 is going to be another risk factor. So I'm then making sure we got training programs and exercises that will reduce the risk of to keep you out there. Then I like to understand where we are from a nutrition perspective, and then we start shaping and putting it together. Once everything's put together, then it's over to me and you as a potential client to put the right accountability and process in place to keep you on track over time. So as you know, I reach out to everyone once a week. What's your goals this week? This is what my goals are this week. And I kind of lead by example. And that's why I hope that motivates and inspires others to do it. And then I go on a journey with you. Updating training programs, take you on that journey, trying to understand barriers. Does need to be tweak change. So I'm very much in your pocket at arm's length. But I'm your, I like to call you myself, your accountability partner.
Yeah. As I said to you at the time I came to you a few months ago to start working with you with my fitness, I've got this history of something I read recently. I think it's called shiny object syndrome, where it's like you get this new thing and you're like, right, yeah, I'm going to go after this thing, and it's you've got a vision, it's going to be great, but I struggle with accountability. I struggle with nutrition quite a lot as well. Like I'm a big snacker and whatever else. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I came to you because I thought, having tried working with personal trainers, like online personal trainers last year, I said to you, after I lost my son last year, right, I'm gonna work with this personal trainer, get in shape or whatever. It was general fitness. It wasn't, to your point around having the why, for starting with your why, like what I find more captivating, compelling, and why I want to stay on this fitness journey with you, and why I've, because by now I've probably started and dropped off of like fitness programs with other people before, but why I'm persevering with it is because I can see how it will positively impact my golf, my fitness generally, so it's not just exclusive to golf.
Yeah.
And also actually what's been quite interesting is, I came to you with like lower back problems, which you've helped me to actually cure through, because a lot of the content I'm seeing you put out on socials and stuff at the moment is talking, if I've understood it right, is lower back issues is one of the number one things that you see people coming to you with, is that right? Like, or that could be one of the kind of real prohibitors or issues that some golfers will come to you with and gets in the way of their...
Yeah. I think in terms of motivation, you've got to think just everyday life, motivated by pleasure or pain. So the pleasure side of things, and to answer your initial bit, especially talking about the wider aspect of the fitness world, there's weddings, birthdays, it's New Year, it's I'm turning 40. These milestones in people's life where they make a conscious effort to step forward, let's say, and make a positive change on their fitness or whatever it might be. They're short-lived though. So they then put interventions in place that can't be sustained for the next 10 years, let's say, because they do it too extreme to hit that goal.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not about that approach, because I want this to be a lifestyle change for you. I'm just using golf as that sort of step forward. That's the pleasure side of things. The negative side is pain. So as soon as someone hurts their back, hurts their shoulder, then they're in contact, I'm like, but it needs to be preventative, not reactive, is the point. Because, golf's a high repetition sport. It's rotation, it's power. We can play it into our 70s, 80s. You are going to experience back pain in that point. It just comes with the law of averages. Well, my job is to make your body robust enough to reduce that back pain and to delay it as much as possible. But it's exactly that. They come in because they want to improve their golf. That's their pleasure. Or they come in because they're in pain. What I'm saying is, no, let's do this stuff now. Or saying, best time was to do it 10 years ago, second best time to do it now. Let's do it now, put the right things in place I'm trying to give your body and you the opportunities to live a fulfilled life, really. And that's the other thing, the fallout benefits. Do you know what I mean? It's the health and all that side of things, which we all know, but it's a big mindset piece of how am I going to get you there on days you don't feel like it.
So what about the role of nutrition then? Like how important do you see that in relation to being on this golf fitness journey? Because, for instance, right, again, something I talked to you about when I first came to see you was my lifestyle is such, either with my work, I travel from Wales to London a bit, and it's that finding it difficult, because you give a meal plan, say, for example, as part of the program that I'm on with you. But it'll go to pot sometimes because I'm on the road and all there's available to me is like service stations at Burger King, McDonald's or whatever. Or even this golf weekend I've just come back from in Ireland, which is like clubhouse food. Yeah. Most of it comes with chips. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, I guess two parts to that question. Talk more about the general relationship between nutrition and golf fitness in this case. And the second part's maybe almost around like the tips for managing that when you're, like I say, when you're out golfing and you almost have to sometimes have a bit of flexibility around, just there's going to be certain food available to you.
No, it's a great question. And I suppose I'll rephrase it really in terms of when it comes to nutrition, there's two things. What your goal is, what you're looking to achieve, and then my beliefs in around how I think that can be achieved. So the first thing you've got to kind of decide is it, and I always like to call it, they're both performance, but is it weight loss you're trying to achieve, or is it performance? Because I think there's two very different things there. Arguably they're interlinked, because you might say if I lose weight, it's going to help me perform. But whenever we're losing weight, we're going to have to be eating less than what we're burning. As a result of that can negatively impact on performance. So, for example, you may start to feel fatigue towards an end of a round of golf. You might not be able to train as hard because your body is less fueled. So the weight loss side of things has a short-term negative impact on performance. But you might then say, yeah, but Zach, I need to lose weight so I can have better energy on the course and those types of things.
And to actually mentally feel better about myself, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I'm like genuinely, and again, I talked to you about this before. It's like, and I was pleased that you said to me, there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good.
Yeah. That's perfectly acceptable.
Because there's at the moment, it may sound crazy to some, but not to others, is, my mate, Andy's been taking, lots of content over the weekend and pictures and stuff, and like, oh, here's one of me taking this swing, and I'm like, God, look at that belly overhang. And it's like, for me, there's a correlation there definitely between, but so sorry, say more, because it's like, I get what you're saying about, so for me, I think there has to be a bit of a weight loss element, but it does have an offset against.
Yeah, it does. So, and I think it's choosing your battles with that. So, for example, when you're on a golf course, I need to make sure you're eating enough so you can focus for 18 holes and you don't drop shots at the end. Do you know what I mean? Then eating the right types of foods and so on. But I think, generally people want to eat better to lose weight. I think that's the general consensus. Not so much performance golfers. They might just be like, I don't care about that side of things. I just want to make sure I'm fueled to train hard and to play hard.
Yeah.
So I think it's understanding kind of like what you're trying to achieve from a nutrition perspective, because I've also seen people jump between the two. I need to eat a high protein diet because I want to build muscle, and I need to eat in a calorie surplus and those types of things. I want to get bigger, stronger. So, and there's a lot of fads and misconceptions and stuff out there. So I think it's understanding what your goal is initially. And then my beliefs around achieving that is, so I don't believe in diet plans as such, because I feel if I give you an 8-week nutrition plan now, you might do it for 8 weeks, but then what does the next 12 months look like? And that's what I'm keen into, see what can we do over 12 months or 2 years or whatever it might be. And there's so many barriers. I'm traveling. I don't like breakfast. I don't like that type of food. And I think as soon as those barriers start to build up, I think we drop off. It's not sustainable over time. So I believe it's around 3 main areas. I think the first thing is awareness. So let's just say I'm trying to lose body fat as a first goal. We need to firstly identify how many calories we burn in a day. And there's loads of great, tracking apps and Apple Health and those types of things that'll help give you a start point for that. There's questions around the accuracy and so on, but we need a start point. And then we need to try and monitor how much we're eating. All right, it's a perfect metric. If I was in debt and I was coming for financial advice, it's, how much you earn, how much you spend, let's try and get them to match up a little bit so I stop going in debt. And it's the same with trying to lose weight. So I need to find out how much do I burn, how much do I eat? And that's going to improve your awareness initially. Way back when I was competing, you'd see a nutritionist, you go in, they'd ask you some questions, you fill in a food diary, you go back in 2 weeks, you'd show them the food diary, and then they'd start making recommendations. Now we have the luxury of apps. Inside my app specifically, you can track your nutrition. You can track your breakfast, what you're eating, your lunch, your dinner, your snacks, and it's going to add it up for you. And then all we need to determine is, are you eating the right amount? So I think once we know that, it's then going to create your awareness, and then you'll start making better decisions. The second piece, I think you need accountability. So you need someone there, your accountability partner, your wife, your best friend, your next door neighbor, or if you haven't got any of those things, someone like myself, a trainer or someone, your coach, wherever it might be, because they're going to be the one where if you're at home and you're tired and you feel like snacking, they're the person that's going to come into your head where you think, no, that's my accountability. And the third thing is education. So it's ongoing support. What about this, Zach? Is that any good for you? What's your thoughts on this? So in terms of what I offer, you track to improve your awareness. I'm here to hold you accountable. That could be checking in with you once a week. You could put your weight in, photos, wherever it might be. The education is the third question that always comes in is, right, what should I be eating, Zach? Well, inside the app, Chris, there's thousands of meal recipes. Choose one. I recommend they're good. Or, there might be another question. What's your thoughts on this supplement? What's your thoughts on eating before I go to bed? So that's the education piece. I think when we go on that journey, then my goal is to make you self-sufficient. You're always going to need someone for an accountability side, but you're tracking, you're aware, you've got the education, now it's the accountability. So that's the journey from a nutrition perspective that you go on. And there's 1,000,001 questions, variables between that point, because, and you made the point earlier, to get you in a gym, I got to get you in there for an hour. To eat well, I got to get you to think about it for 24 hours, which is a totally different beast, different challenge.
What about the community element of your of your brand, of your company, whatever the right word is? I'm curious about this because, we're trying to build a community of sorts here at Golf Yourself Healthy, but how's that evolving with Zach Gould Golf? Are you seeing people interacting well in the app? Are you seeing success stories being shared? How's that coming along?
Yeah, and it is always a difficult one to quantify, and it's a huge buzzword in business.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can create a community, we're away.
Yeah.
And it is difficult to quantify. And I have been kind of in this space for quite a while now. In my experience, I think for ultimately my community are going to buy into me, my beliefs, not as much each other, especially with an online business, because I got golfers in New Zealand, South Africa, Dubai, America. They ain't going to message in there and say, anyone fancy playing a game of golf this weekend, because it's too broad. But what I am able to do to connect my community, I'm a dad of 2, so I have the same, home struggles as many. I'm a business owner. I'm trying to play a little bit of golf. I like a social life. So I think if I can be as real, as relatable to my audience as I can, they're just going to buy into me and my beliefs. And that's what's going to keep people coming back and wanting support from me. And I do that in a variety of different ways. As you know, inside the app, I'm in regular communication. I do genuinely think social media for me is part of the community where, as you know, I went to Portugal a couple of weeks ago. I documented playing golf, eating nice food, training, everything I was doing there. And I share family stuff on there and so on. So I think it's just how, and I've struggled with this in the past, how can I be as authentic as I possibly can across all my channels? That people will be like, he is someone that I want to lead me. And that's what I think community is. Quantifying it is extremely difficult. I don't believe in having 200,000 followers on Instagram shows you have a strong community. I don't know how you quantify that. It's more of a case of, for me, and I calculate these metrics every single month, how many workouts are completed inside my app. If that's going up all the time, there's something bringing people back. For me, that's driving community.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I appreciate what you're saying about this quantifying via one of the metrics could be I've got X number of followers, and I think if we move in now maybe to talking about, because you've just recently launched Zach Gould Golf. And I imagine, to a degree, you'll be in there's some similarities in the journeys that we're on in terms of when you start something new, it's like trying to measure my success and what eggs am I putting, what baskets am I putting my eggs in without trying to spread yourself too thin. And I think I'm trying to ensure that I don't get too drawn into obsessing about, I've got this many hundreds or whatever followers or whatever. I think it's just, so I appreciate what you were saying there. But should we move into talking about Dr. Golf, Zach Gould Golf? Do you want to sort of talk a bit about that journey? Because it's challenging, and this is our embrace the rough moment, I think, that we like to talk about Golf Yourself Healthy.
Yeah, I suppose just to go back a little bit as well, yes, I've got a community now, but I've been at it for 6 years. Do you know what I mean? So I've got, I'm not brand new to this.
No.
So I've got experience about, I suppose I don't want it to come across that this is something I've only just done in the last 3-4 months. Do you know what I mean?
No,
sure. I've got background, and as I mentioned, I've been involved in golf my whole time. But I suppose, the Dr. Golf story is it's an interesting one. I think, I suppose to talk around, obviously for legal reasons, I won't go into the specifics, but what I'd like to, I suppose, share is the emotions I went through during that time, the learning as a result of it, and the person I suppose I am now as a result of it. I think
bear in mind, I think, if you want to totally get what you're saying, and obviously, for legal reasons, you'll only share certain things, but to some listeners, they may not know the journey. So I think, do you want to talk about how Dr. Golf was formed? And then
so Dr. Golf was formed on the back of my PhD in 2017, hence the name, and the vision hasn't changed from that day. The goal was to share all the experiences and knowledge I got to as many golfers around the world to have a positive impact on their life. That hasn't changed. Nothing has changed. Now I just got a new name, ultimately. But from a Dr. Golf perspective, you know, national governing bodies, over 10,000 subscribers, you know, having huge global reach. And I learned a lot of business lessons, I suppose, in the end. But I suppose to move on to where Zach Gould Golf is, my vision hasn't changed. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to share all my knowledge and experience. I'm trying to motivate and inspire many golfers around the world to improve their health and fitness, to keep them playing golf and happy for longer. But it was, it's a difficult one without, I suppose, going into too much of the detail, because nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. I'm still Zach Gould. Well, a lot's changed from Zach Gould's perspective. I just got a new brand name in many ways. But it was a really difficult time in my life. It was a sort of 7-8 month journey that I was on. I put my life and soul into that business, like I have in my new business. I was the face of it. I was, as you know, servicing it and everything. And I was emotionally attached to it. I think that was a big thing. Hence the name was Dr. Golf. My whole family depended on that income of it. It's what I'm passionate about. So it was just a really difficult time. But as a result of it, I'm a massively stronger person. Like, I was always the type of character that I would let a lot of stuff go. In the past, since that day, I don't let one thing go now. There's 3 things that are massively important to me. Fitness, obviously massively important. Finance, I think if you're struggling with finances, it puts huge pressure on all elements of your life, and family. And it's going to sound really strange, but if I'm fit, that allows me to work better and be more efficient in work, then I'm better in my family. So my goal is to make my family happy, but it has to go in that order to make my family. So my priority is family, but I have to get those 2 right to make my family, for me to be happy in that family environment. So I was under all those pressures at that point. And I've kind of, since that point, anything that happens in my life that impacts on any of those 3, whether someone says, does, or it, tries to influence, I am not afraid to have that hard conversation, but it's as a result of this experience.
Right, yeah.
That's the point I'm getting at. So I let too much go over that period.
Do you say that's one of the most valuable things you've taken out of this whole difficult process?
It's having the hard conversation when it hits, because then you don't have to have the hard conversation in the end. Is kind of what I've taken from it.
Right.
And again, without going into the detail, there's certain characteristics that I see in people that I never seen before, because I'm such a trusting and open person. I just see everyone at face value when it's not true. So now I'm much more sensitive and aware to it. So I'm better at spotting characteristics in people, and I'm so much stronger at having that hard conversation when it's needed, because I know that's what's gonna basically prevent the past coming back up. Is the key to it. But no, it was probably one of the toughest 6 months, but it's one of them. I just wouldn't be the person I am now without it. So it's using the failure in golf, let's say, or sort of the direction, all the challenges I had from an academic perspective, then having to start a business and growing it successful, then having, the confidence to then say, no, I'm this is my values, this is what I'm true to, and pressing that reset button and moving forward on my own terms, and then learning all those skills and putting it into my new business is, it's I know it's going to make me, it's made me much stronger over the next 5-10 years where I'm going with Zach Gould Golf. And that will never happen to anyone that I'm now with, whether it's my family, my girls, anyone I help from a business perspective, because I'll make sure they got the right things in place that I didn't have.
Yeah. you strike me as the sort of person who, because I've had a number of men on this podcast who will say, for example, until some very difficult experience happened in their life, up until that point, they maybe find it difficult to talk about feelings. They generally wouldn't address their mental health. Either they wouldn't talk about it, or they wouldn't go and get the help for it. Or so I don't have the impression that you're someone that necessarily struggles talking about how you feel. But, you know, in that respect, with what all the challenges you've gone through with, you know, coming out of Dr. Golf and then going into Zach Gould Golf, has that changed you in any way? Like, are you now much more open than you were before, or have you generally always been someone that's quite in touch with these feelings? And
yeah, no, I think I've never been afraid to show my vulnerability. Never. I'm an interesting character in that way. If I went in a room and there's 30 people in there, I wouldn't say nothing. Once I get to know someone and trust you, I'm not afraid to share that vulnerability. It's funny, when I was doing my PhD, I hung around with all the psychologists. I was massively into that side because golf is, you know, such a mental-based game. I've never been afraid to show that side, though. I have had difficulty with conflict in my life. My sister and my dad, and they'll laugh when they listen to this, they got no problem with conflict at all. They'll say what they think to people. Me and my mum a little bit more the other way. As long as it doesn't hurt, it's okay if it hurts us. As long as it don't hurt anyone else, I will say it. As long as it hurts us, I'm okay with that. But that is something that's stopped as a result of this experience. So I don't think I'm afraid to still show my vulnerability, and I'm still going to be a trusting person. But if there's a moment where I recognize this is going to have an impact on my fitness, family, or finances, it's not going to happen now, because I can recognize all the signs and I've got the skill set and the awareness now to deal with conflict as a result of that experience. So that's the big change for me moving forward, is in a nice way, I'm never going to get taken advantage of again. I'll make mistakes, but no one's going to take advantage of me again.
Yeah. Well, that's, if any lesson that's been taken away from that, then that's an extremely valuable one, right? So, and being true to your values as well. Yeah. That's a pretty big thing that I believe in. I think I want this community to believe in as well, because if you stand up for what you believe in, you can't really go too far wrong.
No.
In life, right? So, golf is good for you. That is talking about core beliefs and core values. That's it. That's probably the one that runs most centrally to this, to golf yourself healthy. What does that mean to you?
I suppose the positive, I suppose I'm going to be the academic here and give you the both sides. So
brilliant.
Golf's obviously had a massive positive impact on my life. I had huge satisfaction from a youngster. I've travelled the world, played some of the world's best golf courses, including Augusta National, by the way, which I mentioned.
You didn't need to drop. We were going along so well. Yeah.
I got my Augusta top on underneath as well. I've met, friends for life. I was out in Quinta del Lago a couple of weeks back, and I bumped into two ex-Scottish international golfers I hadn't seen for 20 years. We bumped into each other. It was like yesterday we've seen each other. So I've had huge positive experience from that side of things. It's given me
What's that, the relationships then?
The relationships, that's friends for life, the travel, do you know what I mean? I've got a family down in Australia who used to go and stay with for tournaments. They come and stay with me. Their kids have been over. Like, there's no way I would have had that without golf. There's not a chance. People take breaks and they go traveling and stuff, but the relationships and the life experience you have from golf, unbelievable. I've got a profession from golf. I've got a PhD in golf. I now got a social life in golf. Do you mean I'd say that was kind of like my professional life before? Now, my friends and different people I play with. So they're all the positives. There's no doubt I got long-term trauma from golf, because, being at 6 years of age, having, I would go to fancy dress parties, dressed as golfers and different things. Like, my whole identity was to be one of the world's best golfers. And that's why I said at the start, I still think that is my identity. And I took that break because, I wanted to keep that identity in many ways. I didn't want to, I still haven't quit, is what I'm getting at. I still haven't quit from trying to be the world's best golfer. Don't get me wrong, my behaviors ain't that way. I don't practice like I should, and I don't train like I should, and different things in terms of being a world's best golfer. But or I might train like I do, but so I think I'll always carry that baggage forever. If I watch, and again, it's jealousy in a positive way. If I'm watching, and I'm a massive Rory fan, but if I'm watching players who I play with and live in their lifestyle, and someone said, "Would you swap?" Of course I would. That's what I feel like I was put here to do. So I don't think that's ever going to leave me. Do you mean when I'm watching golf on a Sunday and they're winning majors, I want to be there, do it now. I don't think I ever come to terms with that's not going to be my life. So I think that's the critique side. So it's had huge positive impact. I definitely going to have long-term, I don't want to use so much trauma because I've just failed a golf type thing. But
no, trauma is a very personal thing, though. By the way, like I personally don't believe anyone else should define what your version of trauma looks like. So don't shy away from using that if that's the word that comes to mind. Yeah,
but I suppose putting it in perspective, I haven't lost anyone.
No. But if as you say, from a young age, that's what you were gearing up for, that's what everything was pointing towards, then it's like a loss in a way.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
It's tough, yeah. Oh, it is. And it's tough. And like I said, I don't think I'll ever get over it. You learn to live with it and never get over it. But these milestones, and it's a bit like what we just discussed, they are my motivators as well. So if I'm not having a legacy there, one's if I'm the #1 golf fitness provider in the globe and everyone knows me for that. Do you mean that's a pretty good career then? So
that's amazing. Imagine that happens. How do you think you might feel then? Given we spend our lives chasing titles, that do you know?
Yeah.
Hard to know. You're not there yet.
I don't know if I get the trophy for that one, but no. So I think to be critical and balanced, it's had huge positive impact. There's some negative in there, but again, I can't change that now. So it's now kicking on my new venture, and like I said, having a positive impact on other people's lives. So yeah, it's. That's for me on that personal side. But I suppose to late in terms of golf specifically, it's a huge social thing for me. I struggle with why I'm playing, because I'm not playing now to be the best in the world. But now it's networking, it's playing with people like yourself, my old friends. It's just an opportunity. It's social for me now. It's a pure social thing, but I'm struggling with the turn off button on the performance side.
That's so interesting, right? Because again, I mean, assumptions are always dangerous, but I probably made one about you is because of your background, because of the elite level that you played at. It's especially interesting what you said about you struggling to turn off that performance thing, because it's always going to be there in you.
Always.
So, because I was going to ask you then, what flipping it back on you, because like you say, when a customer, like I come in to you and I want you to set me up with a plan or a fitness plan or whatever, and you'll ask the person, what are your golf goals? So I was gonna flip it back on you. So it sounds like the goals now are more just like have a good time, socialize with people, meet new people, rekindle old friendships and relationships, and get out in the course and have a bit of fun.
It's all,
and if you perform well, then
that's the bonus.
Even better.
Yeah. It's totally. And since I kind of stopped playing, I avoided golf. I totally avoided it. So if people invite me for a game, I would use all the excuses under the sun not to play, because I couldn't turn off the performance tapsy. So
into you from
I thought I had to go and shoot 65, otherwise people ain't going to be impressed. it's literally only in the since October this year, and again, probably because of the experience I went through, my mindset has shifted hugely and in a carefree way. Like, again, dealing with my own conflict, it don't matter. I'm living life on my terms now, and this is what I want to do. So I've kind of approached it aggressively in that way. But the reason why I go now is to have a really good day out. And that's not determined by how well I play.
What about still almost staying within this frame of golf being good for you, and where you're saying that you now operate today to try and get the best out of other golfers and help them with their game? Can you give an example of like one person you've worked with in particular where you've seen them really embrace the stuff that you're doing with them and really take accountability and work hard and achieve their goals? And has that made you feel good?
Yeah. So, there's countless success stories. Do you know what I mean? I'm working with 2 national governing bodies. There's lots of young juniors winning big tournaments, getting selected for lots of big stuff. But something that really, really hits for me. And I won't share his name, but he definitely won't mind me talking about it, because I do play golf with him socially now, a member of Puthcall. He took to my my training support in lockdown. This gentleman's in his 80s. And yes, everyone started doing Zooms at home and different things in lockdown, but really took to my program in lockdown. Turns out he lives local to me, but he didn't know that, because obviously I'm online. Now a good friend of mine who I play golf with a bit. And he's been doing them ever since. And he, for the first time, and again, I'm aware there's 50 years practice has gone before this, but for the first time, he broke his age gross around Royal Puthcall. So he broke 80. And he's a massive, promoter of my stuff. And he just says, if I weren't been able to move and do these exercises and so on, it would be difficult to shoot my age. So that is still one of my biggest success stories, helping a golfer break his age.
That's really cool.
So there's these little soft moments, and I do share on Instagram and stuff, the people that write to me on a weekly basis. Zach, I'm now training consistently with my wife, and we're both on a health kick, and we're doing this and we're doing that. Like, all of these small things are the bits that I do get the satisfaction from, because being honest with everyone, it's hard to get that when you train someone online. But the message I get back is a bit, oh, great. Do you know what I mean? It's really lifting. So yeah, there's things like that make it hit home that I'm having an impact.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's funny there, because obviously the one thing that comes with doing a podcast in the studio in my house is that you'll hear my dog barking in the background. And Vinny clearly loved the story about that guy breaking 80. So we're kind of coming up the 18th here now, Zach. We're getting close to rounding this off, but so I'm going to lead us into the Eagle has landed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, but I'll ask you this now, but I think I'm going to have to. I mean, you dropped in Augusta and you played Augusta, so I think we're going to have to speak about it in a moment, what it's like to actually play it. But anyway, Eagle has landed. Talk me through the shot, the place, the memory. What is it? What's your Eagle has landed moment?
It is a difficult one, and not because there's been so many. It's more because it was so long ago. I think, and again, something that does really stick with me, and it does help, so I got a video of it, is hitting the opening tee shot in the Junior Ryder Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Europe was away, and obviously the away team hit off first. The captain was Andy Ingram, who's Welsh, and he captained me before. And I was just on just an incredible run of unbelievable golf. I won the Gold Cross up in Harlech, 70, 66, 66, 68. Then I went out to Muirhof the next day, and won that 70, 66, 68. Then got selected for the Junior Ryder Cup. I was just in this credible form, and he just said, Zach, he pulled me to one side. And I was playing with a golfer called Luis Garcia Del Moral, who I was still in touch with. He said, I want you to hit the opening shot tomorrow. So it was you just get this mix of emotions, you know what I mean? I never forget it. I hit the opening shot against Tony Finau. And Tony Finau, you might have seen from the Netflix, he got a huge, I don't know if you've seen that, it's an incredibly emotional episode. I don't know if you've seen it yourself, Chris, but I'm sure some of your listeners have, but he loses his mother.
Yes.
In a car accident, I think it was.
It was in the first season, I think.
In the first season.
Not the newest one, yeah.
And it hit me, obviously, because that's incredibly sad, but I specifically remember the following he had. And the fairway was, 200-300 people, which is big, for an under-16s event. 200-300 people watching, and I think half of them are his family. He's got that big a network, and you see him, he takes his whole family everywhere with him. So I think, and obviously I didn't know who Tony Finau was at that point, but I think just having that opportunity and the players that had around me at that point, where it was, what time it was in my life, I think that was probably it. Do you know what I mean? That was kind of like the pinnacle without me realising. It's unfortunate it happened when I was 16 years of age, but I think that is the moment. If you're going to say, do you want to go and hit that shot again? That's probably where I'd go. So
where was you, so when you actually got to the tee and you're standing over that, where's your head? Where's your body? Because the backside would fall out from it. I just honestly, I get first tee nerves at the best of times, but I'm sure I've heard guys like Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth talk about, they get at the Ryder Cup especially, and all they want to do is just get it airborne and get it down there.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
It's a funny mindset, and a lot of it does come down to confidence. I think when you're confident, you want it, and you like the attention. Do you know what I mean? I was super confident. I was on a good run. That's what I kind of mentioned the back bit, but I wanted everyone looking at me. I wanted that opportunity. I couldn't wait to hit the shot. I was excited about it. So it wasn't a shot of fear. It was a shot of showcasing. And that was purely because I was so confident. Confident in my ability. I was on a good run. So that's where my mindset was. I remember the driver I had, the old night driver. It was a par 4, short, slight dogleg to the left, about a 400-yard par 4. I can visualize it. Westfield, Ohio was the course. But the Ryder Cup was in Oakland Hills, which they flew us out, and we went and seen the players behind the scenes and stuff, which is incredible. But I can just see it all, and I just loved everyone watching me and that opportunity.
Are there archives somewhere where was it ever recorded?
I've got the disc.
Have you?
I got the disc. If you want, I'll send.
I would love to see that.
I definitely got it. It's in my.
I feel if there's somehow like the listener or if they could see you hit that tee shot,
I'll pull it out.
That'd be class. That'd be really good. Great story. Augusta, what's that like? Talk us through it.
So, exactly as you see on the TV. So, bit of backstory. So I actually played there with a guy called Jeff Knox, who is a very interesting bloke. So he's a club champion there. And the reason why everyone will know him, if an odd number make the cut at Augusta, he makes up the 2-ball.
Oh yeah,
on the final day.
Yes.
And he's beaten Rory before. I know everyone mentioned Rory a lot on this podcast, but he's an incredible golfer. So
is he still active now?
He's still active. He's still involved in the Masters. Long story short, so we used to fly down to an event, and Anthony Kim played in this event. I know he's come on the scene again now, called the Jones Cup in Ocean Forest, where Davis Love and various other golfers are based. Invitational only. They'd invite all the best golfers in America, Europe, and so on. And you had to be part of the Walker Cup squad at the time to get invited. And Nigel Edwards, performance director of England Golf, was at Wales Golf at the time, had played in the Walker Cup previously and had a good relationship with Jeff Knox, who's the member there. And he said, look, when you come down to the Jones Cup, come and play Augusta. So we were like, what an opportunity this was. But I actually built a good relationship because I actually then got drawn with Jeff Knox for all 3 rounds of the Jones Cup. So I played with him at Augusta, then I played with him down at the Jones Cup. But no, it was just incredible. So we played full 18. It was a day in February. It was overcast. It was wet. It wasn't raining. It wasn't particularly windy, but it was playing long. And this is in 2005, so I can't imagine what it's like now. To give the listeners context, like the 9th, obviously it wasn't running. I had driver 3 would into 9. They get right down to the bottom, hitting wedges in. I had a rescue into 10, driver 3 would into 11. Like, this course was a monster back then. That's just with no run. And I wasn't a particularly short hitter, so it wasn't that. But I shot 76. So it's not too bad a score, respectable score.
And you're right back at the tips.
Off the tips on a wet day in February in Augusta. It was again overcast, not windy. Experience of the place, food in the clubhouse incredible and cheap, which I know everyone knows. They're kind of famous for that. It's much narrower than people think off the tee. People do think it's a bit of an open hitting course, I think, but it's not in real life. You don't have to hit it a strong draw to win round there. And I believe some of the best players have shown that. Everyone says it's a drawer's course. You have to hit it both ways, especially with the shapes into the greens. It's much more undulating than you see on TV. And again, I know they mentioned a bit this year, but the second shot up to 18 is very steep. Second shot up to 9 steep. The 18th green is hard to visualize without the crowds. It's just huge open space. Whereas obviously when we watch it on TV, it looks like a narrow short hitting thing. It's a huge open area with a little green and, big bunker there. So yeah, it is what you see on TV, but obviously the way in which it's set up. But no, it's just a once in a lifetime experience. I never believed it was going to be my last time I'd ever play there. I always believed I was going to be back. So I think that was probably something I would like to go back and maybe take more in.
Never say never.
You never know.
Remember where I am when you get the invite.
Yeah. And I played the par 3 course as well. So all in all, it was just one of these once in a lifetime experiences. Yes, I'm relaying a lot of things that people say when they go there, but it's true. And it's, if I ever have the opportunity to go back, I would be taking it.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Zach, that's probably just about all we've got time for. Anything before we wrap this up? Just give you the opportunity, if there's any final words from you, just based on your kind of golf experiences, your life experiences, any kind of key piece of advice or inspiration you'd give to a Golf Yourself Healthy listener?
Obviously a really open question. I think just reflecting on my journey today, I think adversity isn't the end of us. It's how we perceive it and then the actions we take from it. I'm a massive believer of having good mentors in your life. I got a couple of key people who I still got now, which have had a really positive impact on it. It's good to share. Like I said, I'm not afraid to address my vulnerability, and I think by being open and honest with people has definitely led to more positive things. So I'm not going to turn that tap off. Don't be afraid to have the hard conversation when it comes. And yeah, take care of your body. It's the best place you're going to live.
If you're healthy, you're wealthy, as I say. So, Zach, thanks very much again for coming here physically today and just making the time for the pod. And
thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Cheers.
Well, I thank Zach very much for, again, coming to the podcast studio, for being with me in person. I thank him for his company and his openness, his honesty during that conversation. And as ever, there are various things we can take away from that conversation, like there are with any guest conversation. And so before I offer my own takeaways, I'd love to hear yours. Get in touch with me, Chris@golfyourselfhealthy.com. That's KRIS @golfyourselfhealthy.com. Or you can follow us on social media on Instagram or X. The links to that are in the episode show notes. So if you prefer that, give us a follow, send me a message. I would just love to hear what you got out of today's episode or out of any of the other episodes more broadly. But just to offer a few takeaways on my side, I first laid in no particular order as I've got it written down here. I like what Zach said about having the right people around you. I once heard a quote that said, you should seek to spend the time with, have friendships with, relationships with, and connect with people who give you energy rather than the ones that take energy from you. This idea of grieving a loss, Zach was at pains to say that he hasn't endured grief. He's not lost a loved one per se, but he's experienced his own version of trauma and grief and loss as it relates to a calling, a career, a pathway that he was so desperate to have, but due to a certain set of life circumstances, didn't go his way. And as he said, adversity is not the end of us, nor does it necessarily define us, but it offers a fork in the road moment. And Zach has, I'm so pleased to see the route that he has taken, and it is obviously bringing him joy and passion, and he is clearly getting a lot from helping others on their golf fitness journey, including the story of the man in his 80s embracing his fitness plan. And really, that's amazing. This is the impact, the profound impact of golf in many forms. But to hear, what other sports, there are relatively few other sports out there where you can play until that late stage in your life. And not only just that, you can, if you take your fitness seriously, like the example that Zach gave there, perform to a good standard too. Really, finally, I'll end on this takeaway. Turning off golf for a while and not wanting to play because of, I guess, the scars, the war wounds that Zach was left with as a result of, his dreams being taken away from him, really. Again, I've so valued and respect the honesty on that point, but to hear how golf has now morphed into a more social affair for Zach now, and to get the enjoyment out of the camaraderie and the companionship with friends was really so great to hear. And I especially like how he didn't try and pass off some answer about, some contrived answer about golf being good for him. He gave an honest answer. His version of what golf is good for him, what that looked like at one point in time, no longer looks like that today. And so it's great to hear that he's found his why today in golf. And so I'm going to leave it on this. What's your why? Again, I want to hear that from you. I'd love to hear from my listeners directly. So get in touch with me. Why do you play golf? It's a simple question. But until then, and until the next time, please remember to always embrace the rough and forever cherish the fairway.